in a pandemic, it just seems like days just go like crazy. And joining me shortly is my beautiful wife, and she has helped me tame the inferior or flawed dragon. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Do you find yourself comparing yourself to other people? Do you feel less than other people? This is a dragon that starts so early. And this dragon, I believe, is responsible for the epidemic rise in teenage suicide driven by social media, where people put their best selves forward and then other people see them as inferior or flawed. And with me today is my beautiful wife. Thank you for joining me.
Of course.
I always try to get her on and we can talk about the dragons. And we're in this series from my new book, Your Brain is Always Listening, coming out March 2nd. Go to yourbrainisAlwaysListening.com, order your copy, get some really great gifts. But, you know, as I was going through the dragons from the past, this is one of the really bad dragons. It's so common. Mm-hmm. And don't you find, particularly for teenage girls, it just devastates them?
It was like 2 days ago. I was in, Chloe was exercising and she was talking about, she's kind of getting kind of fit. And I'm like, you know, you look really fit, but I'm happy you're not super, like, she's not overly skinny. I see some of these girls around here and she's like, oh, I'm not nearly as fit as the girls at my school. I'm like, how did we go from me giving you a compliment about being fit, but healthy looking, to you're not as fit as the girls in your school? And so she pulls up her Instagram right away. Notice social media. Pulls up Instagram and she proceeds to show me like 10 or 15 girls that she goes to school with. Now, in my mind, I mean, I'm more mature and I've had more life experience. I mean, I did the same thing when I was her age, but we didn't have social media. But in my mind, I'm thinking they're too thin. They look insecure to me. they all feel inferior, right? You can tell by the way they're posting these pictures and they're doctored. And I'm like, why is this a good thing? Why is this a good thing that these kids feel this need to do this? And, you know, I'm telling her she looks healthy, and now all of a sudden she's comparing herself to other girls. Well,
and we all do it, no matter what age you are.
I catch myself doing it, you know?
Right. And it's like, I'm not tall enough. So I was the shortest kid in my class. Odds are it's me or Alfonso, the shortest kid in the class. And that's hard. Or I got beaten up by my older brother all the time. You know, I wasn't strong enough. So not tall enough, not strong enough, not smart enough, not rich enough, not pretty enough, not handsome enough, not good enough at sports. And this is just a devastating thought. So from the book, here is what the inferior flawed dragon looks like. And it starts early when you feel inadequate. And you struggled in school. You had reading problems when you were really young. So when I was
really little, up until about 3rd, 4th grade, I was one of those kids who got held back and put into the special classes. And I always just felt like I was not as smart as everybody else. Yeah, it was really hard.
But it caused you to work
really hard.
You were a hard worker.
And I overcame it.
Same with me.
Yeah.
So it can start if you felt damaged, less than. That's the big headline. Do you feel less than others? Ability, looks, money, relationships. And in the book, I always talk about what's the origin story. What triggers this dragon? comparison, comparing
Yeah.
yourself to others. And you told me when you were doing Christmas shopping,
Oh yeah.
that you just
So we have a colleague, and she's just beautiful. She's my age, and I found myself doing exactly what my daughter does. I'm like, I'm normally aware of this, so I don't succumb to it like I used to when I was young. And all of a sudden, I was doing Christmas shopping, and she pops up on my screen, and I'm like, why don't I look like that? She's the same age that I am, and in 5 minutes, I found myself going down that rabbit hole, and I was just.
And you are stunningly beautiful to start. So
Well, and all I could see was she didn't have as many wrinkles as I did.
So comparing yourself to others, looking in the mirror, although we have this funny thing, I look in the mirror and I go, how can you keep your hands off me? And she looks in the mirror and sees every wrinkle.
Oh yeah, no, he stands in front of the mirror and he's like, he's so cute. How do you stay away from him? And I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, I have another wrinkle today.
And so this dragon causes people to feel inferior, can trigger depression, jealousy, oversensitivity, perfectionism, and even taken to its extreme, something we call body dysmorphic disorder, where you really become obsessed with your flaws. I've treated a number of people and they thought, and you worked for a plastic surgeon, you know, if only I had my nose done this way, or only I had my breast done this way.
You know, I think working for a plastic surgeon is the cure for body dysmorphia. Because I think I definitely was like, I had that when I was younger. I was a perfectionist. I had an eating disorder that I struggled silently with for years. But going to work for a plastic surgeon, here's what happens. You realize, because in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I can change what I don't like. And then you go to work for a plastic surgeon and you realize that what happens is, even when they get good results, they're not happy. And they often don't get as good of results as they were hoping to get. And so either way, it's not always a good thing.
There is a part of the brain called the anterior cingulate gyrus that when it works too hard, it's the part of your brain involved in error detection. And so when it works too hard, you notice too many errors in yourself or in other people.
I notice
and
it
so
everywhere.
little serotonin can be so helpful.
I always pick the thing that's wrong. I notice the thing that's wrong, like, you know, in my surroundings.
So a little serotonin mood support.
Yeah, but I feel drunk when I have serotonin.
Really helpful. So what's the upside? Well, if you were perfect, you'd be God. And clearly neither of us are. Accepting your flaws will help you accept others, because we all have flaws. This can help you become more humble and more compassionate. Okay, so how do you tame the inferior flawed dragon? Lots of information in the book, but the first thing is you have to stop comparing yourself to others. And you have to stop caring what other people think of you, because they are not thinking of you. There's a rule I call the 18-40-60 rule, which says when you're 18, you worry about what everybody's thinking of you. When you're 40, you don't give a damn what anybody thinks about you. And when you're 60, you realize nobody has been thinking about you at all. Share that rule. I teach it to all of my patients.
I love that. I also love, and I really meditated on this a lot. I really focused on it until I really got it, is it's not anyone else's job to love you. It's yours. So what other people think of you is really none of your business. I learned that from Byron Katie, and it's been really helpful to me.
Yeah. And the opposite of this is the superior position, which we'll get to, the judgmental dragon, where you think you know better and you're constantly criticizing other people. And that often means you haven't dealt with your own inferior or flawed dragon. And then stop comparing yourself. So how do you do that? I know that's hard. Be aware of when you do it. Know the comparison triggers and avoid them. Change your focus to something else. Focus on your strengths and accomplishments. I have all of my patients do that because they forget it. Where you bring your attention determines how you feel. And don't criticize others. I'm watching some of the comments, and some of you are still stuck on the vaccine issue from last week. And 430,000 Americans have now died from COVID.
We're not talking about that now. We're not talking about it.
Like, get over it. And avoid mindlessly scrolling social media. That is so important. For each of the dragons, we have what movies they might like. And for the Inferior Flawed, it's the Marvel X-Men mutant characters.
Oh, interesting.
Like Wolverine and some of the other ones, because those are people who took their flaws and turned them into strengths. You can always compare yourself, right? There's always going to be somebody who has more money than you. Always. Even now, is it Jeff Bezos? Is it Elon Musk?
It's no longer $1 billion is no longer the.
It's like,
yeah, the goalpost always moves. So
right, it's really the happiest people, clearly, because I've treated
a lot of billionaires,
very wealthy people.
Yeah, they're not that happy.
Money doesn't make you happy. Up to $75,000 a year, money's important. Above that level has not one thing to do with
I was actually really
happiness.
surprised to see that some of the people, the wealthiest people that we know, are sometimes the least happy.
Right. It's because they haven't learned to manage their mind.
It's crazy.
And they still, and when asked this one question, well, what would make you twice as happy? And they said 10x. So whatever they were worth was $500,000,
so how are they ever going to be
$5 million, $50 million.
So that means they're always moving their own goalpost.
They always move their own goalpost.
To happiness.
For happiness. And it's the molecule, which we'll talk about, dopamine, is the molecule of more. Is once you have something that really excites you, over time you'll get used to it. It's called hedonic adaptation. And then you're just going to want more and more.
One thing
except you thrill me. Love that. But
it's because I scare you if you leave.
No, I'm so happy because you get the other chemicals of happiness going, like oxytocin and serotonin and GABA. Now she thinks it's because she scares me. I'm not afraid of her. Not afraid. Now we also have meditations to deal with this dragon, the inferior flawed dragon. I am unique. I restrain from comparing myself to others. I am strong. I am independent. I will be my best, not someone else's best. And if you think about what you were like as a child, and the child often feels inferior or flawed because of what he or she experienced, go, let me tell you what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, like embrace that young child.
And for you, or for me, when I was 5, I was small and I was being beaten up by my older brother and I felt invisible. We talked about that yesterday. And I had no clue that I would get to hang out with you or that I would get to do the cool things.
I know, I feel the same way.
I do.
So, and one thing that has really helped me with this is, women struggle with this a lot as they age. Because aging is hard for women when we see wrinkles and, people around us are getting a ton of plastic surgery. And I've certainly struggled with this. I mean, how many times have we talked about, should I get my eyes done or not?
No.
So, and he doesn't want me to, so I don't. I haven't gotten it done yet.
I don't want her to have that constant happy stare.
So we've not done the facelift and eyes yet, although I think about it. All right. I'm not going to lie. So we go back and forth with this, but I finally got over this, and here's why, because women struggle with this so much, but by turning it around and flipping it to something forward thinking, like what about today and tomorrow do I like better than the hard body or the lack of wrinkles that I had in my youth? Number one, I would never go back to being in my 20s for anything, but I like the wisdom that I have now. I like this place of being able to help others. I will exchange the lack of wrinkles for the wisdom. And by switching it around like that, that really helps me to move forward.
I love that. So I will be my best, not someone else's best. Again, your brain is always listening. I have a special event coming on February 9th for 90 minutes. I'm going to talk about how you can reclaim your brain and your mind in 2021. Talk about all the dragons. You can go to yourbrainisalwayslistening.com/event. It's a free event. You can also pre-order the book. And when you do, I have 4 free gifts. My favorite one is you get a free coupon for a bottle of Happy Saffron, something we take every day. It's like a $50 value. So if you go to yourbrainisalwayslistening.com, you can get more details. All right. See you soon.
Bye. Have a good day.